Are you going to have a problem getting a green card if you and your spouse had a long Stokes interview? I'm Erick Widman. I'm an immigration lawyer, and many people are concerned that if they get separated during their green card interview, that they are going to be on their way to a denial, that the green card is not going to be issued because USCIS is too suspicious about your relationship. The good news is that simply having a Stokes interview, being called in, that unwelcome reality that you are being separated from your spouse and asked a set of questions that they're going to compare and contrast, if that happens, you don't need to fear that you're doomed. The good news is that you can come back from a Stokes interview and show your adjudicating officer that you do in fact have a genuine marriage. This can be difficult to do because you're going to be thoroughly grilled, aggressively questioned during the interview. And a month or so ago, for example, I was in a Stokes interview with a couple new clients, and the interviews were quite long. It took 2 hours for each spouse to be interviewed. And so as their attorney, I was there taking notes for both sets of interviews. They do them back to back. And the idea of the Stokes interview is that the same officer is asking the same questions of each spouse to see if any inconsistencies come up, to see what their answers are like. And in denial notices that we've also seen, the fear is that you'll get a notice of intent to deny based upon inconsistent answers in the interview that come from the Stokes interview. So what's the best way to prepare for a Stokes interview, and what's the best way to think through what your prospects are if you've been through it? So to prepare for a Stokes interview, you simply want to get your timeline in order. We always recommend that you talk through this scenario with your spouse of how you originally got engaged and married. So talk it through, come up with the rough timeline, but remember and be encouraged that you don't have to have a perfect recollection like a robot of every single event. And people have different interpretations of when the relationship really got moving. For the female and the male, there could be different key events that were especially meaningful. And you could have eaten at your favorite restaurant one time, and that's when you thought you were officially dating. But it was only in the mind of the other spouse, the other fiance at that point, that things got serious. So you should talk through prior to the interview the timeline and have a general idea that you can agree upon, but your genuine real relationship is what's going to carry the day. And for example, I've had clients asked about what color is the rug, and one person says it's tan, the other person says it's gray. Those inconsistencies are reasonable, and you're not going to get a notice of intent to deny if such minor discrepancies are laid out. However, we have seen a really tough officer with some new clients who contacted us say that you remember different movies in remembering the history of your relationship and what movie that was when you went out on Friday night. So depending on how long ago it was, if it was last week, that's a little more suspicious. If it was last year, few people can remember small details like that. So after the Stokes interview, the good news is that many times you're just going to be approved. Or you could indeed get a notice of intent to deny, and you'll have a final chance to fight back and provide additional evidence showing why your marriage is genuine. You can explain those inconsistencies. And don't get into a big fight with your partner over who should have said what. That's stressful. USCIS in some ways is hoping that the stress of this whole situation will cause some couples to throw in the towel and give up. Don't do that. Make sure that you stand up for your genuine relationship and you put your best foot forward with any response to a notice of intent to deny. And prior to one of these Stokes interviews, get prepared in a reasonable way, but don't overthink it. Don't stress out too much about it. Let us know if you have any questions, and definitely take care.